afternoon or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are most welcome to this webinar on exploring breakthroughs in the fashion industry through a cultural lens. My name is Barbara Gracia Tabea, and I'll be your moderator today. Regarding this webinar, Design in Global, which is from Bangladesh, has launched a cross-cultural initiative uniting nations worldwide under the motto Exploring Breakthroughs in the Fashion Industry through a Cultural Lens, and they are collaborating with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Bangladesh as their strategic partner. This virtual webinar is being hosted together with Redan Business and Vocational Institute in Uganda, and also in collaboration with Ujana Empowerment Foundation and different schools and institutions from Bangladesh. The context of the webinar, it will aim to delve into the crucial facets of the fashion industry within the global North and South, encompassing topics such as fashion and sustainability, as well as the intersection of heritage in modern contexts and its potential for collaboration. At this juncture, I will briefly highlight the people who are here, the important guests who are here. We have our speakers, we have Shirin, we have Azra Mahmood, we also have Zubayer from Bangladesh. Along with them, we also have from the Ugandan side, Dr. Amos, the director of Redan Business and Vocational Institute. We have myself as a director of Ujana Empowerment Foundation that's offering a platform for this webinar. Ujana Empowerment Foundation is a youth-led initiative. We are for the youth, by the youth, and we educate the youth on the principles of sustainable development. We are glad to offer a platform today. At this point, I will give you some key highlights, key things to keep in mind for the webinar. It is expected to last for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. Each speaker will have 20 minutes to speak. And for the questions, they should all be written in the chat box. I will pick them from the chat box. Thank you so much once again for showing up. Thank you, students from Uganda, from Bangladesh. And at this point, I will first of all invite Dr. Amos to briefly tell us about Redan Vocational Institute. And from there, we shall go to Zubayer for Design in Global, and then our speakers. Dr. Amos, you're most welcome. Please take up this opportunity and tell us about your lovely institute. Thank you.
Hey, Barbara, I think you're misled because we have so many doctors at our institute. But my name is Dr. Saul Daniel Dumba, the principal of Redan Business and Vocational Institute. I hope you can hear me. We are really excited to connect with Ujana, but also with Bangladesh, that is Design Global. Redan Business and Vocational Institute is an institute that is offering both business, technical and vocational courses. And our major or our most important motto is that we strive to really develop or come up with students to have products that have limitless potential, limitless impact, and students who can really have limitless opportunities around them. So our motto is actually 2 words: no limits, no limits. But especially in line with, we have several courses. Of course, we run, catering, fashion and design, garment design, which is why we are here today. and so many others like journalism, IT, business courses. But I wanted to spend in the next few minutes just talking about fashion, our fashion and garment design department. We have it's really an awesome department because you bring in students who know nothing at all as far as making clothes and designs is really concerned. But within a matter of months, like 6 months, you have these people who can make for you, outfits, both for male and female. And so for us in that department, we are so excited because you can clearly track the kind of training that goes on. It's hands-on, it's skill-oriented, and the students who are always there are really focused because they come in when they love what they want to do. This is they love the course, and so it's really exciting to now have the students connecting with Design Global. So we are so excited. We could think of so many opportunities, especially for the future. Maybe welcoming you to Kampala to sort of we could come up with exchanges, exchanges to sort of we want to learn what does fashion mean as far as people from Bangladesh is or even borrowing from your international experience. We want to sort of appreciate that, but also it's I see this webinar as one of those opportunities which helps to sort of remove cultural boundaries because the world being a global village, we can now talk about fashion and share our experiences from Uganda, but also across Asia. So Barbara, once again, thank you so much for reaching out to us, and we're looking forward to learning. So with me here, we have students, mainly students of fashion and design. But actually, I don't see him though. Dr. Amos, I don't know where he has gone. Maybe he has changed the name. But actually, Dr. Amos is our guild president. He's a guild president elect. So, I mean, he couldn't miss out on this. He's the student voice and said, no, 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 I have to attend this and listen in so that I'm sure that my constituency is getting the right kind of mate. So we're so excited. Again, over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Saul, for that introduction of the Vocational Institute. Sorry, earlier I mistook you for Dr. Amos, but
Okay.
this is Dr. Saul. He is the director of Redan Business and Vocational Institute. And thank you for highlighting the potential for future collaborations. At this point, I would like to invite Zubayer. Zubayer, are you with us? Zubayer, to
Yes, I
kindly
am.
tell us about designing.
So thank you, Barbara, from Ujana Empowerment Foundation. I'd like to thank Radiant Business and Vocational Institute Uganda, Mr. Daniel as well. So in regard of Designing Global Foundation, I'm Mohammed Zubayer Hossain, the co-founder and director of Designing Global Foundation. Designing Global Foundation is an initiative and it's a foundation that we are working for. It's been last 8 years. And we created the foundation, it's been 3 years. And Designing Global Foundation is the mother concern of design in Bangladesh, which is an initiative and a statement that we are working on right now. And today's workshop is a cross-cultural activity of ours, and we are hoping to get as much as opportunities that we can create, that we have created for Bangladesh already. And now we wanted to create this for global approach and global arenas. So our concept is to empower global South and get the collaboration from the global North. So Design Global Foundation is working on empowering ethnic minor communities, underprivileged women, and different communities. We have already succeeded to empower 75 artisans for last 2 years associated with UNESCO Participation Program 2022 and 23. Currently, we are associated with such as Ministry of Cultural Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh, as well as we are associated with different ministries, Ministry of Education of Bangladesh, as well as different embassies of Bangladesh associated with global aspects. We are really proud and we are really happy that we are today. This is happening. We have started the workshop with different approaches with the help of Ujana Foundation, with the help of Mr. Daniel and his Vocational Training Institute, so that we can take design in global into a different level. So I'm welcome you all and thank you all to join today, and let's go for the best. Thank you, everyone. And I would also like to inform you all that Design in Global Foundation stand for 5 dedicated approaches, which is sustainability. We have an innovation lab. We are dedicatedly working with education, climate action, empowerment, partnership, and collaboration. Most importantly, SDG goals. So thank you. Let's move on to our workshop sessions. Thank you, Barbara. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Zubayer, for that introduction of Design in Global and for the great work you guys are already doing. At this point, I would like to invite our past speaker, Miss Shirin Araghi. She will inform us if I pronounce the name right, and she will be talking about fashion toward a more sustainable future by maintaining a global dynamic. Within her discussion, she will introduce fashion and sustainability, understanding the current landscape, and then some case studies of sustainable fashion practices. She will also highlight some innovative approaches and success stories about sustainability and fashion worldwide. At this point, I would like to give you the floor, Ms. Shirin. You're most welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. You actually did a very great job pronouncing my name. That was absolutely correct. I should maybe kick off by introducing myself very shortly. So as you already said, I'm Shirin Araghi. I'm based in Germany, in Düsseldorf to be exact. I work as a designer at a big fashion company, which is called CNA. And apart from that, I'm also a freelance consultant and an educator on university level, where I teach several courses on the topics of circular economies and also social fairness within the textile supply chain, mainly in Bangladesh, but also in Germany. So I have very strong connections to Bangladesh. I have now I can call them close friends over there, and I'm very happy to be a part of today's workshop session. And I will now take around 20 minutes to talk about 3 important topics. The first one is looking like. So what is the status of the fashion industry today? What are the approaches that we are facing, and what are the challenges, especially with focus on global collaboration? Then secondly, I will talk about some case studies and some good examples on sustainable practices that we have already been seeing introduced in the fashion industry, and also some novel technologies that might lead us into a future. And then thirdly, I'm going to shortly talk about the fine line between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation when it comes to the fashion context. We all know that fashion is operating on a highly globalized level. So when we work across cultures, we have to get inspired by different cultures, and we have to learn about cultural backgrounds and be knowledgeable and be sensitive about cultural differences. So this is going to be the third talking point. Now let me kick off with the first one. Introducing fashion and sustainability. How is our current fashion industry landscape looking like? To put it into one single word, our current fashion industry is linear. What does linear mean? It means that it's actually a very straight line. It has a beginning and it has an end. At the beginning, we see a raw material, that is then produced into a garment, into a fashion product, and then brought to a consumer, and in the end, turned into waste by being discarded. This is what we call a linear fashion industry, where we see one streamline, one clear line of products and of goods that have a beginning and an end. But as you can imagine, this linear model has certain threats associated with it, which means that whatever comes as waste in the end is not reused. When we look at our current fashion industry, we see that less than 1% of clothes that are not being used anymore are recycled or used for a second time. So more than 99% of clothes that people don't use anymore are thrown away and being discarded and end up in landfills. They end up being burned or just, let to digest for itself. And this is something that we have to tackle. And especially when we see or when we take a look at the consumer behavior or at the waste generation behavior, we see immense cultural differences. When we take a look at the global, let's say, split of roles, we see that especially highly developed and highly industrialized Western countries located in Northern America, but also in Europe, are the ones that consume most. These are the countries where the most waste is generated and where the least products, after not being used anymore, are reused for a second time or being recycled. This is a big threat because we see that those countries that generate the most wealth globally and that have a very high buying power because they are very developed and very industrialized, they don't take ownership and they don't take accountability for the amount of waste that is generated through overconsumption. And this is a cultural difference because when we see different countries and when we see developing and emerging regions, we see that they culturally have a different behavior when it comes to waste generation. We see countries like Bangladesh, for instance, which has inspired me a lot. People in Bangladesh treat clothes different as people in Europe, for instance, do. People in Bangladesh, they have a connection to goods. They worship their garments because they have a cultural connection to them. They might be a cultural, a heirloom that they want to keep for a long time. They might even get their clothes inherited from the parents, like we sometimes see sharis being, transmitted through generations and being given to daughters when the mothers don't wear them anymore. So there is a connection, there's an emotional connection, a cultural connection to products, which prohibits, or let's say, keeps connected to them. And this is a cultural difference where we definitely see where Western countries or also let's say in the global north, they have changed their consumer behavior. They're going away from appreciating a product and consuming them very strictly. So this is one aspect of the current fashion industry. Another thing that we have to highlight is that the fashion industry is setting free tons and tons and tons, uncountable masses of emissions. We're talking about CO2 emissions. We're talking about chemicals that are being used that are not being filtered properly and that get into our natural landscapes. So this is something where, again, global collaboration is needed to address those kind of challenges. Because, as I have already said, our globalized fashion industry has split the roles very strictly. There are certain countries that are known for consuming, that are known for creative work, for buying, and also for designing. These are mainly countries, again, in very developed regions where countries have the buying power and the overall political power to facilitate those kind of behavioral patterns. And there's other regions in the world, especially emerging regions, countries like Pakistan, countries like Bangladesh, but also, East Asian countries, Taiwan and China, where production is happening, where the majority of textile production, of yarn, of fiber, of textile and of fashion production is taking place in those kind of countries. So when we take a look at emission offsetting, we tend to have a very, let's say, pragmatic approach in making an analysis of what is happening where. So when we take a look at a global chart, we will definitely see that certain countries, when it comes to fashion, have a much higher offset of emissions. And those are mainly the countries where products are produced. So we tend to choose the easy explanation to give this kind of the responsibility of this emission offsetting to those countries where it's accumulated. For instance, China, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and India. But in the end, the products that are produced there are not going to be consumed there. They're going to be consumed on the other side of the world. That's why those countries that have this consumerism behavior are not always taken into responsibility when it comes to emission offsetting. We tend to see the easy solution and blame those countries where the emissions are actually accumulated, because those are the production countries. But they're not producing for themselves. They're producing for others. So again, when we take a look at emissions, we have to choose a global approach in finding responsibilities and defining who is responsible for what kind of solution and for what kind of offsetting. So when we consider our current industry as a linear model where a lot of waste is accumulated, we also have to not only rethink our buying and our consuming behavior, but we also have to think about how can we actually recycle garments when they're not used anymore. And even if we manage to change consumer behavior of the many, we still have to find a solution to what happens with the products once they are thrown away. And there we see a very, very difficult problem. Especially in the textiles sector, we are working with a lot of products that are blended with different materials. So we have a lot of products where you use, for instance, cotton, polyester, acrylic, and nylon all in one garment. And when we blend different materials, we are taking away the opportunity of recycling this product, because recycling certain products can only happen when you are separating them into their raw materials. Polyester can be recycled as pure polyester. Cotton can be recycled as pure cotton. But when we blend things together, it's difficult to, and I'm saying difficult, but I mean impossible to take away these fibers, which are blended very closely. You cannot take them apart later. So you have a bulk of fibers that are blended so deeply that you cannot separate them later. So when we talk about recycling gaps that we are facing in the current industry, our biggest challenge is that we are working with so many blends that cannot be recycled anymore. These are the key challenges that I see in the current industry, and which are keeping us from becoming more circular as a whole industry. So many of you have already heard the terms circular economies, I assume. Circular economies means nothing else than trying to transform our current industry that I have already explained is a linear model. And we are trying to eliminate this concept of beginning and end. And we're trying to circulate all materials and all resources endlessly. And when I mean all materials, I do not only mean the fibers and the raw materials, but I also mean all kinds of secondary resources like water, energy, and chemicals. So also those resources should be considered recyclable. And, they should also live in a full circle of a value chain. So coming to my second point. What kind of new case studies or what kind of positive examples can I name to you today about pioneering sustainable practices in the current industry that might inspire us and that might give us some hope that there is change coming? First of all, I want to highlight that in many garment producing countries, especially in countries like Bangladesh, we see a lot of new fibers, new natural fibers coming up and being requested by very developed countries. I have seen very interesting new textile products from banana fibers, from the banana leaves, but also from pineapple fibers. So these are very natural resources that are actually accumulated as waste, as agricultural waste from food production, because there's a lot of pineapple, but also banana production in countries like Bangladesh, for instance. And those big leaves of these plants are something that are not used in food production. So they're wastage, but they can be turned into fibers, into very strong, robust fibers that have great heat isolation, properties, and that are great for keeping the body cool and feeling very comfortable on the skin. So we see that there are several startups in those emerging regions that try to make use of this waste material and create new textile materials out of it. And we also see that there's already some very big corporations in the global north that are taking a very close look into these innovations, into this creative input from the global south, and that are actually taking a look at them and trying to make products for the masses, which is a big change. And I think that there is a big opportunity there to grow. When we talk about chemicals, we also see that in the past decades, there has been a lot going on. When we talk about production chemicals that are used, but also all kinds of other resources that are needed in production, these are definitely something where we should see the accountability with producing countries. Of course, buying countries or very developed countries that are in the end consuming those products have an added responsibility to increase the demand for more sustainably made products. But in the end, if we talk about what kind of power do emerging countries have, we really see that when it comes to making production steps more sustainable, they have the power to do so. And they have the creative inputs and the creative ideas to rethink certain processes and to treat chemicals, for instance, in a closed loop. So what we have been seeing in Bangladesh in the past decades is that there has been a very big change when it comes to water treatment. Almost every factory in Bangladesh now has initiatives for water treatment plants, so that the water is treated, filtered, and cleaned before it's released. And this is something that is actually having a huge, huge impact on the whole industry, because when the water is released into nature, it's not only affecting the immediate natural circle around it, but when this water gets into the ocean, we have a global issue. So it's not as easy as blaming one country and telling them, you know, this is your problem, this is your nature that you're destroying. It's a global issue because water is streamed around the globe through our oceans. So this is a massive change that we have seen. With water treatment plants, we also see that you can filter out certain chemicals in production steps and you can treat them in a closed loop. So after having them filtered out, you can reuse certain chemicals and apply them in production a second time. So this is something where we definitely see a big change. Where we also see a change is in pre-consumer recycling. Before I delve into that, let me quickly explain to you the difference between pre-consumer recycling and post-consumer recycling. We differentiate those terms pre-consumer and post-consumer because post-consumer recycling means that we recycle all products after they have been thrown away from the consumer. So after a product has been used by a consumer, and if we recycle that, that is post-consumer recycling because it happens after the consumer. Pre-consumer recycling is that we recycle all kinds of waste that has been accumulated before a product has reached the final consumer. Why do we differentiate those kind of terms? The explanation is very easy. It's because the handling of those two different recycling approaches is very, very different. Post-consumer recycling, as I have already told you, is a very difficult step because we are working with so many different products split across the entire globe. So we need a tough infrastructure to collect everything and to recycle things based on each fiber type. So we have to separate all fibers and then we have to collect every waste and recycle it. It's a big endeavor. But when we take a look at pre-consumer recycling, so everything that happens before something reaches the consumer, those are mainly wastages that are generated in production steps. So while producing one certain product, there is waste generated. And while you're already in this closed loop, you can simply take this waste and recycle it within this recycling loop. So there's a big difference between pre-consumer and post-consumer recycling in terms of how realistic is it and how easy is it to achieve. But when it comes to pre-consumer recycling, so all kinds of wastages that are generated in production steps, we already see great novelties and we already see great initiatives that are again coming from production countries, from emerging countries, especially in China, but also in Bangladesh and India. We see a lot of new materials offered that are made from production waste and recycled from pre-consumer perspective. So this is again something where we see a big change in the last years in the industry. There's more and more products available from pre-consumer recycled sources. Another change that I wanted to address is also that finally consumer demands in the global north are changing. We see several studies that show that especially younger generations, and I'm talking about millennials, but also Gen Z generations, are actually demanding big fashion brands for change. Many of them state that they would only consider buying a product from a brand if the brand is actually positioning themselves and making clear sustainability statements. Especially when it comes to plastic waste, young generations are really forcing changes, and they force the minimization of plastic waste in packaging, but also in raw materials. So we do see that consumer thinking is changing. We see that consumers are actually demanding a change within the industry, and this can help to accelerate the change and to make it bigger. Another novelty or another case study that I think is very interesting is a recycling technology that I wanted to mention today, which is called near-infrared technology. And this is a fully automated technology that can scan post-consumer waste, so garments that are thrown out, and that they can automatically scan through infrared light what kind of material they have in hand. So you can put it into a machine, and the machine tells you this is a cotton material, or this is polyester material, or this is a blend of cotton, polyester, and elastane. Of course, those technologies are just emerging, but we already see that through the integration of AI. For example, we can let those initiatives grow, and we can make them bigger and expand them and make first trials in the industry to see can those sorting technologies actually help to increase the amount of products that are recycled every year. So these are some of the novelties that I wanted to highlight. There's another point that I wanted to address before moving on to the topic of cultural sensitivity, which is policy changes. Of course, we know that when we talk about the fashion industry, we're talking about a business sector, a private business sector. We're talking about companies that first and foremost, prioritize their financial revenues. This is how capitalism works. Sorry to break it to you, but making money is always the key factor that people want to achieve. The key performance indicator is how much revenue can we gain. But certain policymakers across the globe are actually thinking about instituting laws that force companies to rechange their behavior. There are some initiatives that I wanted to name today, which are actually coming from the EU, from the European Union, which then in the end will also have to bear those consequences, because we're mainly talking about companies located in the European Union that have to take responsibility. So one initiative that the European Union is suggesting is the extended producer responsibility, the EPR, which is actually something that might change the entire landscape of the fashion industry in the future. Because this initiative is proposing that a fashion company, the producing company or the buying company that in the end is responsible for selling the product to the consumer, that this company is responsible for the waste that is generated. So if a garment is thrown away and you see inside it's the label XYZ, then this label is responsible for what happens with this garment. If it's not recyclable, then there's also a financial, a financial fee that has to be paid. And this is a very highly discussed topic currently in policy making. Of course, it's still on a conceptualizing state. So it's not that we already take a look at specific laws and specific financial fees that we're facing, but it's just a strategy that is currently discussed and that might lead to big changes in the future. The last topic that I want to talk about today is the fine line between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation. As I have already said, the fashion industry is highly globalized. That means that a textile is going through so many countries before it's reaching the final consumer. This also means that on a business level, we are operating with many, many people from different cultures and from different countries. So when we operate in this fashion industry, we must develop a so-called cultural sensitivity. So we must be sensitive for different cultures and for different behavioral patterns, depending on people's backgrounds. Especially in creative fields, when we talk about fashion design, we have to get inspired and we have to get new ideas for new silhouettes, new colors, new prints. And many times we see that inspiration is coming from cultures that are far away from us. So when we talk about when we talk about print design, for instance, we see a lot of people gaining their inspiration from motifs, from patterns, from, you know, very traditional ways of working things, and from heirlooms from different cultures. This means that we do sort of appropriate those cultures for our own gains, because we're making a product out of it that is inspired by a culture that is not ours. In the short side, it's very easy to state that inspiration should be allowed to everybody. But when we talk about cultural appropriation, it means that we must be aware and we must be knowledgeable about those cultural differences before we simply take on certain things and make them ours. Especially when we talk about cultural differences from a global south and global north, we also see that, especially looking back into history, the global north has done quite some things that we, you know, that we now consider as questionable today, to say it very politely. So when we talk about all kinds of art exploitation that has happened from European countries in southern countries, also in Africa, we must always be knowledgeable about the past. We must educate ourselves about what has happened in the history before we simply appropriate another person's culture and make it a product and make profit out of it. So cultural appropriation is something that that gives us responsibility to educate ourselves, and that that really that should awaken us, and that should wake us up. And if we work together across borders, and if we work together between cultural barriers, then we must be knowledgeable about what this culture means, what kind of historical differences has been there, and what kind of personal responsibility do I, with my background, have towards other people from different backgrounds. And this is actually it from my side today. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm giving the word back to the rest of the speakers.
Okay, thank you so much, Shirin, for that insightful and very elaborate presentation on the fashion industry. You have clearly highlighted the issues in regard to sustainability in recycling, but also in the greenhouse emissions, as well as cultural sensitivity. I hope our students out here are listening and they're preparing their questions for our speakers. At this juncture, I would like to invite our next speaker, Miss Azra Mahmood, who is a fashion choreographer and model at the Bangladesh fashion industry. She will be taking us through the breakthroughs in the fashion industry through a cultural lens. She will talk about how Bangladesh's fashion industry influences the global north to rethink the fashion movement. And she will also talk about the impact of design in Bangladesh on global fashion and reconnection to fashion. She will also briefly highlight the traditional heritage in fashion from Bangladesh. Ms. Mahmood, you're most welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I would like to start with Shirin. Amazing. What you said, you've actually covered most of what I was about to say. But honestly, it was an eye-opening for me. So I'm pretty sure that the students who are here with us today actually got a lot of knowledge from you, even about Bangladesh, I'm sure. And thank you so much for putting Bangladesh in this positive aspect, because you know how it goes. Not too many people think of us as in that positive light. When I speak, I would like to request Zubayer to add certain aspects to my notes as well. So Zubayer, would it be okay for you to actually collaborate with me on this session?
Yeah, sure. Please carry on. Yeah.
I'd like to start off with I'm going to make this a little informal, if it's okay with everyone. I'd like to say that, you know, when it comes to upcycling, downcycling, we've been doing that for ages now. I loved how Shirin mentioned that our, fashion is attached to our culture, our heritage, and it indeed is. If I have to mention about one certain fashion aspect in Bangladesh, I would talk about Nokshi Katha. And Nokshi Katha used to be, sewn by our ancestors, and the usage of that Nokshi Katha, if we can call it downcycling in a way, because first it used to be like, in a katha, how would I say katha? Blanket. And then, like it, okay, fine. We used to start with saris. And then once that saris were, like almost they were not fit to be worn anymore, that used to be made into a katha. Katha is something that you put on yourself, a blanket. And on this kathas, a lot of stories from our villages used to be sewn in the form of art. And then from that katha, once we couldn't use that katha anymore, we used to cut it out and utilize and make it into simple napkins, or even like things that we could, when the pot gets hot when you're cooking, we used to use that to hold the pots as well. So this downcycling was done even way before we started talking about sustainability, way before we started talking about recycling. And from a cultural perspective, Bangladesh has always been, we've got muslin. I'm pretty sure all of you know what muslin is, the purest form of cotton. And we've had that for a very long time. I love how Shirin mentioned that, now that we are mixing the threads and the type of fabric, and we're not being able to recycle that anymore. I think we understood that a long time ago. But somewhere, I think, Zubayer, we did get lost, and we started producing what we're supposed to be produced. And with all those issues that are arising now, and like cheap labor, and producing manufacturing things that are not sustainable in ways that are not sustainable as well, resulting in what we are fighting today. So that issue is there, but right now what Bangladesh, I think, is focusing on is not only breakthroughs in the fashion industry. I think we've, as Shirin mentioned, that we've come up with a lot of fabrics from different sources that we are trying to reproduce, and as well as from the wastages that we're trying to utilize and make good things out of it. The overall thing that I believe right now, that made in Bangladesh, that Zubayer and the team are working with, has to be shifted to designed in Bangladesh. And to all these students from Bangladesh that are here, I would like to mention that since we are having to focus on a lot of sustainability, the costs are going up, and we don't know if this can be a sustainable, trying to reach sustainability can be a sustainable form for us. So the designs are a main focus for now, which the design in Bangladesh people are focusing on. Zubayer, would you like to take a little for me from here, that why we're talking about designed in Bangladesh and not only made in Bangladesh anymore?
Yeah, so Bangladesh, we are really proud, and pride is made in Bangladesh. If you look at European market, US market, and other markets, when you go to like H&M, Gap, or any kind of a showroom or stores, if you look at the label, that you can see that is mostly made in Bangladesh. So currently what we are working with, or what is our concept is, we have a lot to offer. We are the producing country, so that not only that we can produce, we can also offer the solution, because we are the thinkers, we do the production. So we are the best people that can tell what's the best solution for the designing and creativity, sustainability. In a whole, all the SDG goals are related with this. So design in Bangladesh is the idea and the concept that we want to establish. Already it's been published, and we are really proud to say that it's been went to Forbes, CNN, that design in Bangladesh made in Europe shoe, which is Ekin, I have mentioned earlier. And also we have reached 141 million people, that now we are the side that we want to turn the world upside down, so that we can collaborate and we can focus on giving the solutions regarding the design. Definitely northern part of the world are mostly giving us the designs, the creativity and other stuff. But the main thing is, when we produce, we can suggest which is the best way and which is the best solution for the production. and which is going to be viable and sustainable. So now this is our time to educate, to learn, to collaborate, how we can move this to and take this into another level, along with our world southern part, regarding other production countries, producing countries such as, it might be like Uganda, it might be African countries, it might be India, Pakistan, other countries. So mostly we are targeting the production countries, Bangladesh, that we can design, we can give the solution, and we can take this into another level. So basically, design in Bangladesh, we want to promote Bangladeshi heritage, Bangladeshi culture, creativity, and the solution that might give by our designers. So basically, we have started to promote Bangladeshi designers currently, and then we are working with the different country designers that are kept in the dark. So we are trying to grab their hand and take into our umbrella that we can stand for each other and make a difference.
Thank you so much, Zubayer. It's an amazing thing that Design in Bangladesh is trying to do, and makes me very, very proud to have you guys do this. I would like to share a little, I would say, a story. You know, like we had our weavers. Zubair, can you tell me what komortat is called in English? They used to weave using their waist, the body part.
Yes. Basically, we have different type of weaving techniques. So it's a semi-automated, fully automated, and fully manual. And then our ethnic minor community have a different approach and different technique for the weaving. They use their waist. They put their what can I say, weaving materials in their waist, and they weave the fabrics by themselves, like totally connected with the weaving techniques and things. Yeah.
In
I
a
don't
way,
know
it's
the
not.
specific. Yeah.
I know, right? Because I don't think I've seen it in too many places, but I believe Africa might have that technique where they use their waist to weave the fabrics. And it's not really, like it kind of affects your waist a lot. And then at a certain age, you have issues and stuff like that. So with time, we're kind of losing that technique in a way. But the fabric produced from that kind of weaving is amazing, and it's extremely sustainable. But over time, since we started producing other kinds of fabric that are not really what do you call it, recyclable, and that started selling, the entire process of this became like in a way non-existent, I think. So there are a lot of weaving techniques that Bangladesh already has. Unfortunately, we are losing that because of the practices that were started earlier. I'm glad that we are as globally, we're looking into factors of sustainability and things like that, and people are thinking of environmental issues. I'm hoping that we will be able to bring these kind of techniques back in Bangladesh in collaboration with the technology and with artificial intelligence that is being introduced to the world these days. What else can I add? I would like to also say that the collaboration that we almost lost with our artisans, I think with Designing Global and with different entities like Designing Global, we're actually being able to bring back our traditional weaving techniques, our heritage, and in context with the global changes, we're being able to put that together and bring something new for the world. I would like to end my you with that.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mahmood and Zubayer, for highlighting that rich heritage from Bangladesh in the fashion industry. Myself, I didn't even know someone can use the waist for the weaving process and all that. So yeah, I hope our students from both sides are enjoying this. And at this point, dear students from both Bangladesh and Uganda, if you have questions, kindly type them in the chat box. We are giving you a chance to ask our speakers some questions. So please, this is your moment, students. As we wait for them, I will be reading some comments on the chat box. Dr. Saul, the director of the Institute, Madam Shirin, for that insightful presentation as the principal of RBBI and also as a climate change specialist. I thank you for allowing me to rethink about emissions using the passion sense. Thank you once again, Ms. Shirin. And then we have Angabire Shakira, who says we are really grateful as the RBVI students. We are also grateful for you. We are grateful that you showed up, and we are waiting for your questions as well. And then we also have Dr. Saul again. RBVI can directly practice pre-consumer recycling from the wastages that come off the clothes we make at the Institute. Thank you for highlighting that. And the students are also agreeing. Dr. Amos, GID 9, I hope we shall see you doing this in your school very soon. Let's move on a little bit. So GID has a question. What are some of the products that can be made out of textile wastes, both pre and post-consumer recycling? I think this question would be for Ms. Shirin. Thank you, GID, for that question.
Yes, thank you for that question. And I can, I think, respond to it quite quickly. So when we talk about textiles that are made from one single material, we can recycle them back into the exact same product. So when you throw away a cotton t-shirt, a cotton jean, or a cotton pant, you can recycle it and use the same cotton for creating one of these products once more. The process of that would be quite mechanical. You roughen the textile surface until you gain back the raw fibers, which you can then spin back into a yarn, and use that same yarn to create fabric surfaces and make a new product out of it. But when we talk about all kinds of textile blended materials, so when different many materials come together that cannot easily be separated anymore, then the basic solution that we have for those textile products is downcycling. And downcycling, as Azra has also mentioned before, basically means nothing else than taking a product that had a certain value, use it for something else, but the value would be less than the value had been of the product before. And downcycling for textile products could, for example, be that we use them for insulation materials in cars, but also in walls, in buildings. So those kind of things can be done from blended materials. I hope this was a good answer.
Thank you, Ms. Shirin, for responding to this question. Jade, if you're still here, give us a thumbs up to show that you understood, or if you didn't understood, thumbs down, and it can be re-explained to you. Someone else has said, thank you, our speakers, Nabukonde Patra Damali. Thank you too for attending, and we hope you're learning. And you have some questions, hopefully, kindly type them for the speakers. This is your chance, students. Please do not shy away, type all your questions. I heard the speakers talking about banana fibers, and Uganda is also one of those countries that produces a lot of bananas. I do not know what our students think about this. Do you have any thoughts on the banana fibers and how you can utilize them in the fashion industry? Or even Dr. Saul, I don't know, anyone who has something to say, you can keep typing in the chat box.
Yeah, I guess as I was actually just typing here something, but you know, like I said, I'm really a climate change specialist. I do a lot of consulting and also teaching at the two main universities here in Uganda. My PhD is in actually climate change stuff, so I do lots of that. But using the lens of principle and the courses we teach, we teach at our institute, listening in from Azra and Shirin Araghi, I'm just really made to rethink and maybe reflect a little bit on the curriculum of these students, because you know what, we've not necessarily been directly talking about issues of climate change mitigations, emissions, and what their actions or what their products, the whole process could actually, the kind of damage it could cause to the environment. But listening in from here, and of course being reminded of what's happening, what's at stake globally, it's very clear that we need to add in some of these concepts in their learning, so that they start even thinking about, like, for example, usually at our institute, we usually have a lot of waste coming through from students when they are making the clothes, the different clothes they are learning, but they make there's always a lot of waste, and I think when you don't teach them or when you don't show them the challenges of that, even when they graduate and go wherever they go, they will just continue, disposing of that waste anyhow. So I really see value. I see a lot of value in today's webinar. And but the question I have for the presenters is, the concepts that are being shared are really, they're really of national and even global, concern, or even security. How can we bring about that mindset change, whether at institutional level or even policy, to ensure that this kind of discussion, and learning continues? I'm just curious, because like the way our schools are here, I mean, even signing up for a webinar like this, it's really, with the work of Barbara visited me, and she phoned me in the office, and I was just, I listened to her, and I just said, well, I think I should create time for this important webinar. But the other thing that would have happened, maybe I would have said, no, we are not doing this. But, look, it's very important. How can we, and this I'm asking Azra and Shirin Araghi, how can we make sure that we really do these sensitization, sort of like massive sensitizations? Because, if the people who make the clothes know, for example, the dangers of it, I had never thought about it. Maybe there would be some sort of contribution, even at that smallest scale of, like, maybe an individual. What is your perspective on how we could achieve or even expand this kind of concept, so that it crosses over to policy, and there's so many, garment designers who are making these things. And of course, you talked about our cultures. In the Western world, you put on your clothes for a few days, and that one, you throw it away and you'll get another one. I think it would be the same even in the global South, but I think because of the nature of the economies, you cannot sometimes afford to sort of, buy clothes every other day. So, but it's coming because the economies are changing. I like the idea of circular economy, but I want to hear your perspectives about how we could really scale up and get this kind of information known. Even maybe within the youth, because I know tomorrow they are going to be the next leaders and the next industry owners. So over to you.
Azra, do you want to say something to this?
I'll add with you. You go ahead.
Okay. So I have a very clear opinion on this. First of all, there has to be mentioned that fast fashion and this availability of clothes for a cheap price so that everybody can afford it in the global north has also one positive upside. And this is social equality and social fairness. So having the availability of clothes that look the same, you might have differences in price due to different brands, but just looking at people and seeing them in clothes is not an indicator anymore for poverty and for social, differences. So this is something that fast fashion has brought to the global north, which is fashion being democratized and being able to, or let's say, open to everybody, and everybody can have some, and everybody can partake in this culture of clothes. But on the downside, we have all these environmental factors and this overconsumption, and the fact that you only wear things for a couple of times until you throw them out. So where I see the things is, firstly, clothes have to become a bit more expensive so that you don't have this, this initial, careless behavior with it. And in order to achieve this, because big companies will only do this if they don't have, a competitive disadvantage to their competitors. So I do see the biggest necessity in policy change and political actions, and not just on a national level, but on supranational level. So we're talking about UN that has to set up clear guidelines and clear, policies that every nation has to adapt and translate into laws that can be followed up and that can be controlled and can be fined. So I do see that only with policy we can actually make this change happen, because otherwise companies are not going to make this change on their own, because they want their financial stability and their financial freedom and their competitive advantage to the other people in the market. So I do see that we have to have some laws in state to create this change by forcing the industry to do so.
I think, Shirin, to an extent, we are going there, because everyone is actually thinking about all this. And we're, right here from Bangladesh and Uganda, we're talking about it. And we are indeed seeing some policy changes already. But I 100% agree with you at the fact that it needs to be a little pricier than how much we can get it and now. And overall, I think it's going to become a little more pricey, because we're having to stick to certain standards, which has in turn come because of the policies that have been made. So definitely, I would agree with you saying that it has to be the policies that needs to be changed. But I'm also very positive, and I believe that we are walking towards that.
You have been also asking about to come up with another answer to Professor Daniel. I think, and how we can educate our youth and create this, this cultural, this appreciation of a product that several, cultural entities in African countries and also in Bangladesh, for instance, as we have been talking about, already have this awareness about the value of a product. How can we get this back to other countries that have lost this awareness? And I think we need more initiatives like these, especially for younger people. On student level, we have to get students together on one table, and we have to create projects and connections where students across the border, across borders and across cultures can come together and learn from each other. Because for me, when I was younger and I went to Bangladesh and I saw, the way that they treat their clothes with dignity and with respect, that had an influence on me. That had an influence on how I saw clothes. So I really do think that when cultures come together and work on projects together, and we do have technical means to do so. I mean, we do have all the technical equipment we need. We have internet, and we have to some extent at least programs that can help us communicate with each other. And this is all we need to connect students nowadays. So we need to create new projects where students across borders can come together and create and co-create together.
It is the time of collaborations. We have to collaborate on everything to get a better world.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add a little bit. So
Yes.
This is the time that we have started, like in Bangladesh as well. So our founder, Ruqayyah Purna, is a recognized international fashion designer, and she started the initiative of design in Bangladesh. So back in 3 years back, so she designed a shoe inspired by Bangladeshi national fruit. It's called jackfruit. In Bangla, we call it kathal. So by the inspiration of this, she designed a shoe, which is manufactured in Portugal and marketed by Germany all over the Europe. So we started the journey. She started the fight 8 years back. Still, she is fighting for the rights of the designers of Bangladesh culture as well as the designer of the total South and North collaboration. So this is high time we start the revolution that future days we started. I'm really thankful. We are doing it today with Uganda. So this is the time that we create this opportunity and the factory from global. We knock the door of the policymakers that yes, we are aware of the things, we are talking about it. Let's change, let's make a change. Let's do it. Do it together.
I see that we have some questions in the chat. Maybe I can try to respond to some very quickly. So we have also the question from Janatul, who has asked, what are the environmental benefits of recycling in the fashion industry? And those are actually, just to name a few, first of all, when we talk about secondary resource use, so the use of water, of energy, and of the CO2 offsetting, when we recycle products instead of using virgin materials, we have lower emissions and we have a lower footprint of those. For instance, when you use recycled polyester instead of polyester, you can save up to 40% of energy. So this is one thing that recycling has as a benefit. But also, when you use material that has been waste and treat it like a virgin material, you generate financial value of something that had no financial value before. So there are also some financial benefits to it. We also have a question on how can we use the banana fibers in industries. So banana fibers, they're made from the banana leaves, which are very, very big. So the fibers are also very long stapled. And you can treat them pretty much like linen or hemp fibers. So you can make all kinds of garments out of it. You can blend them with other materials like cotton to have a good natural blend, which is not dangerous because they're both natural fibers. And you can pretty much create any product out of it. Knitted or woven, you can make pants, dresses, blouses, shirts for men. Pretty much everything can be done with those long staple fibers. And we also have another question, which is a bit trickier. How can we encourage consumers to prioritize purchasing sustainable fashion over fast fashion? So there's
awareness.
Awareness, consume less.
Awareness.
Oh, awareness. Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, we have to educate. Yeah. And we have to, as Azra and I, we have already stated together, we need some policies, but we also are very positive that there is new strategy and new policies coming up, and cultural collaboration can help to create awareness for what's going on the other end of the world, which we sometimes forget, which is actually called vicinity bias. So people are actually by biology biased towards what they don't see in their closer vicinity. So we as humans, we always tend to only recognize something that is close to us, and everything that is further away, we tend to ignore, which is human. But we have the technology to overcome those biases, so we should.
Someone was putting up their hand, but it's now down. Maybe they can turn on the audio and ask.
Please, the person who was raising their hand. I don't know if the person is still with us.
Maybe not, but Barbara,
I
I think there is some more coming in from in the chat room. If you can look, you can check.
Redan Institute would be happy to collaborate with textile industries or fashion schools in Bangladesh. How can we connect? Our students need exposure. I think this is for Zubayer.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, we can connect. We will connect. That's why we are here. So Bangladesh is a huge network. Like we have almost 4,500 industry working on the RMG and the fashion sector, contributing hardly to produce some goods and produce some things, styles, fashion for the world. So, and with them, we are the largest platinum LEED certified factories as well. And almost 2,500 industries are now in a belt of the green era. So yes, we have the networks and the connections. And in the Designing Global Foundation, I have mentioned earlier, we have different experts on the industry that are working with the textile sectors, working on the certification side for GSCS to SGS certified experts we have in our team that are really enthusiasts to talk about their work and how the sustainability certification works. Also, the production level thing, merchants, sourcing people, we have all the experts we can connect, and hopefully we will be taking different webinars with different experts from Bangladesh or around the globe. Some people like today. So we are really hoping forward for future collaboration and webinar like this into classes for the better understanding of the students. We are really positive and we are looking forward to it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Zubayer. And I think we have the last two questions. Dr. Amos, the Guild President, he said, thank you for the presentation today. Question, shall we be able to keep getting these fashion and design webinars to expand our exposure and knowledge, or this is the first and last? Because me personally, I see we need more than this for today. So yeah, I think we shall work on having more of these webinars and design in global, and the speakers agree with that, I think, as well. The other person was also asking about webinars, so the students really have a concern if there'll be more of these webinars. Zubayer, will there be more webinars?
I think to answer that, like one of the Bangladeshi students have actually asked how can we encourage consumers that we to prioritize purchasing sustainable fashion over fast fashion. I think these webinars can actually be a part where we can educate everyone and create awareness as well. I think, Zubair, I'm very happy that you did this, but this really needs to continue.
Yes, hopefully, as I told everyone, we are really looking forward to it. And this is the way that we started the journey and we start talking about it, discussing the facts and figures, the things that we are trying to tell people that are under the shades, so that now we are bringing this to light. And this conversation, these webinars are when we put it into the social media, then the conversation will start from there and we will take it from there into another level. Yes, I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you, Zubayer. We look forward to it as well. I think at this point, before I invite you for the concluding remarks, we can have a quick picture session, or will the pictures come after the concluding remarks? Which one is better?
I'm sorry for the interruption. I would like to say thank you to all. This invasion, decolonizing and deconstructing in the global power dynamics of the design industry and breaking free the creatives from the boundaries of geographically, ethnicity, and wealth. Our founder, Ms. Rokaya Ahmed Purna, started the initiative of Design in Global and Design in Bangladesh. We are working with her. And I am thanking Shirin for her words, her wisdom, and all the knowledge she gave it to us today regarding every aspects, like from starting to sustainability, regarding the culture, different aspects, all the answers. I hope all the students had their answers, and we had a great session today. I'd like to thank Ms. Azra Mahmood from Bangladesh. Really thankful to you regarding all the cultural aspects of Bangladesh and fashion industry, how we are evolving in the global arena. I'd like to thank Ms. Barbara, Ujana Foundation, Ujana Empowerment Foundation. I'd like to thank the Radiant Foundation to having us to conduct this workshop session today, Mr. Daniel, and all the speakers, all the members, all the students who are keeping patient and with us total webinar. I'm thankful to you all. So maybe we will be having this webinar once again. Till then, thank you so much. Be safe.
Zubayer, sorry, could you kindly turn on your cameras for a screenshot?
Yes, I can take it.
Mm.
Please, if possible, everyone, I'm requesting everyone to put their camera on so that I can take a screenshot of the webinar today. I'm requesting everyone, all the students, all the speakers from Bangladesh and Uganda, everyone, if possible, to open their camera. So we will have a session. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for showing up.
Thank you. We look forward to further collaborations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.